Welcome to Squirrel, the podcast for distracted writers, hosted by Candace J. Thomas and Jody L. Milner. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Squirrel. This is Jody.
This is Candace.
And today is episode 2, and we're talking all about plot armor or plot protection.
Tell
and
me
the
what
big
this
question is, should we be giving characters plot armor, or are there better ways of protecting the main characters so they survive the story? Anyway,
Okay.
That's a hypothetical question. We're going to get into it. Poor Candy's like, wait, now? Are we starting now?
Wait, I need your definition.
You need
Tell
my
me,
definition?
Yeah, tell me exactly what you mean by
Okay,
plot armor.
so it's a bad thing to do this, and we're going to tell you exactly what it is so you avoid doing it. So a character who has a plot protection, or sometimes it's called script immunity, character shielding. I like plot armor. It sounds funnier.
Plot armor is fine. We can coin that.
So-
Hashtag plot armor.
But a character who has it has this uncanny ability to survive any perilous situation without much effort on their part.
Okay.
They just magically get through these huge ordeals, and it feels like nothing can happen to them. And so generally this character is really important to the story, and they need to be kept around for reasons of the plot. So the main character's love interest, most of the time. Like, you know which characters have it right from the beginning, generally.
But I'm getting what you're saying, where I don't like it when like things become easy, or things have, I don't know, magic stuff happens with the main character. They just magically know how to do stuff. Or can I spoil a book? I'm going to spoil a book.
Okay.
We're
starting strong.
I know, because this is on my mind. To get my point out, in Ready Player One, it was set out in a way that you could follow along, and it was these moments at the end, you're like, oh, yes, I got it. Yes, it was all good. Ready Player 2 didn't allow you to do that. It was so convoluted and had so much stuff happening. When it came to saving the day, all of a sudden, all of this stuff was granted to the main character that was not anything anyone could ever guess. It was just handed over. Oh, and did you know that I can do this? Or yes, I actually have this, this magic,
and that's
whatever.
almost breaking into Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah, maybe. Well, it's just like it just seemed like unfair as the reader to have things become just
You gain the magic tool right when you need it.
Yeah, exactly.
It feels like cheating.
Yes, thank you.
It is cheating.
Yeah, I didn't
Don't
like
do
that.
it.
And I don't know if that exactly falls under the magic armor. I feel that it does, the plot armor. Because, of course, our main character in Ready Player One, I didn't want him to die. That was obvious, and there was really no way out. So the fact that all of a sudden he had this amazing way out was unfair. How about that?
I think so. I think anything that makes it seem like a cheap shot that the character managed to survive falls under plot armor, where it's like they shouldn't have been able to do that. It was too convenient for them to be able to do that. It cheapens the tension, where all of a sudden you're like, okay, well, clearly this person can't die, so hopefully they at least learn something as they go.
Yes.
So
I think a character who is likable and who the audience is rooting for should have flaws and should have to deal with those flaws. I don't like it when a character is shot and then it's just not explored. They're like, actually, just fine.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
We haven't had our character injury episode, but we should definitely explore that.
Yes.
That's one of my sticking points, for sure. There's an opposite of plot armor, and this is called the anyone can die trope. And so you'll see this, I think this example is going to come into play later, but we'll give a specific example later, but this is throughout the movie, really important characters that you thought were vital to the plot get picked off.
Yes. Okay.
And you work your way through the end, and your main character is getting more and more panicked as they get through to the end because you don't know if they're going to make it or not. And so that is the opposite of a plot that has a lot of character protection in it.
Gotcha.
And so riffing those two off each other just is really demonstrative. That is a great word. Yes. Demonstrative of having these two different ideas at play. Mm-hmm. So there's some scenarios where plot armor, you can really see it show up. So next time you're watching kind of a cheap superhero movie or an action adventure made for kids, like watch for these specific things, because this is an example of plot armor. And I've got a couple. We'll just go back and forth and share the ones that kind of come up more often. So the first one is just a lucky break or a near miss or like a miracle. So like the trap triggers a fraction of a second too late and it misses your main character. Mm-hmm. The arrow misses, the bullet misses by inches. They just happen to not be caught in the big gnarly thing. That's an example.
Let's see, an intervention of somebody, like a stranger coming and saving the day.
Absolutely. So it just happens to be there.
Yeah. So it pulls, your main character doesn't actually have the struggle. They're rescued.
They get their butt saved.
Yeah. Something like that, I'm thinking.
There can be an intervention by location. So they just happen to find, or intervention by thing they find. So that you are actually bringing that up. Yeah. Like you magically find a handgun and it saves the day. You magically find a wall to hide. Not magically. There's a wall to hide behind. It just conveniently, there's a wall. Right. Or there's a building to take shelter in so the storm doesn't kill you. Like there's these little things that pop up. They're just like, oh, that's convenient.
Yes.
That's plot armor.
Yeah. Okay. That's plot armor. But I do see where there needs to be a little bit of tension breakers. Would you call those tension breakers where they get a chance to go and hide into the cave or under the car and they're not seen by the monsters?
Yeah, I mean, you need to give them respite during some really intense scenes, and I think it's okay for them to find safety or them to not get hurt, but I think their actions, like the main character or whoever's character we're in, like they have to have some sort of effort on the part.
Gotcha.
Like it can't just be a given. It can't just be like, oh, look, an AK-47. We're okay now. Mm-hmm. It has to be, we need to do this. We need to look for this. There's got to be something here because this place would have this thing.
Gotcha.
Like they need to be using their skills to be able to solve it. And if their skills are, this is danger and that is safety, like it's not as convenient. But if it's just like, oh no, there's an enemy. Oh, look, here's a wall. It's convenient for us to hide behind. Like, don't cheapen it.
Right. Do you have any like examples within pop culture?
Okay, so characters who've had a lot of plot armor. So everyone says Harry Potter has really big plot armor, and clearly he would have to, because he's in a 7-book series.
His name is on the title.
His name is on the cover. He has to survive it.
I think he's protected if your name is on the cover.
And so everyone's like, oh, he survived too many things. He got through too many things, but he was hurt. He was hospitalized and he had to use his skills. And there's a different aspect to him. He's part of an ensemble cast. So he doesn't have to solve all the problems. He and his team do. And so I feel that his plot armor is a bit more nuanced because he has to depend on his team and that their skill set counts.
Okay.
So I feel that his isn't true plot armor, but like Doctor Who. Doctor Who has plot armor, even though he can die and regenerate.
Yes. I've been rewatching with the new season that came out. I've been rewatching some of my favorites. And yes, these near
that
misses, sonic screwdriver can do pretty much everything.
It's the softest magic out there. And that's why it's charming.
You're so right. Yep.
Well, and like Jack Sparrow is nearly a mythical character from what he was able to randomly survive.
Okay.
I think anything that's a high adventure movie, so like Mission Impossible, Bourne Identity, and James Bond.
Okay.
They all have massive plot armor on them, although they do have big skill sets.
Right. Well, but there wouldn't be a Jack Ryan series without Jack Ryan. He has to get through things.
But he has a skill set too, and he's using those skills to survive. So does he survive by accident or by skill? And that's where it's like, okay, I like him because he's got skills, and that's why he's surviving. Yeah. But he has to be protected too, so he has to have the skills. So you have to build the character with the skills. Because if you had some, random character that didn't know how to do anything and they're just keeping surviving, then that's when it starts feeling cheap.
Very good. I really didn't come up with many. Like if your name is on the book cover, I figure that you're going to survive. I don't know, like Percy Jackson. I don't know.
No, it's true. We hope that the character named on the cover is going to survive, because clearly they need to be in the next book. But we do have examples of the anyone can die trope.
I do have examples in that. Because I remember just having, I think that there was something I read recently where everybody was just dying. Or, okay, no, it wasn't that I read something. I watched The Last of Us.
Oof.
That's what it was. And
that is a huge example of everyone can die.
No one was safe. And some of those episodes I was surprised by, because I'm like, I love this character. And then all of a sudden they had the virus, and my heart broke into pieces because of that. But after a while I was so like, I don't know,
it's exhausting.
Yes, thank you. Yes. It almost became like a joke after a while that
you get desensitized to it.
Like, oh, well, there's another one. Oh, there's another one.
It's like it doesn't hit like it's supposed to anymore.
No, and you put this in the notes, but yeah, Aliens for sure.
Actually, all of the Aliens movies do it.
Yeah, nobody was
people
safe.
Get picked off one by one.
Even Ripley wasn't safe.
Mm-mm.
Like, did you see the third one?
Was that Resurrection?
Mm-hmm.
That one was the weirdest one.
Well, it was weird, but she wasn't safe in that one.
She very much wasn't.
Not to spoil the ending or anything, but she was not safe. So what about you? What did you come up with?
Well, I think one of the bigger ones that has been more recent is in Game of Thrones. They made a very clear show, in like the very first season, we are made to believe that Ned Stark is important. He is a hero. He is loyal. He is strong. He's every attribute a hero was supposed to be. And this is also a spoiler, because any death mentions of any universe is a spoiler. So
we'll have to put a spoiler.
Apologies. But he doesn't live the first season. And no one expected, unless you read the book, and then you do. But it proved the point that nobody in the story is safe.
Nobody's safe. And
nobody is safe.
It prepares the reader or the audience that anything can happen. You're unsettled because no one's safe anymore.
And it does amp up the tension. When done well, it can really amp up the tension. Because like Aliens really amped up the tension, because they are picked off so strategically, one after the next.
Yeah, seriously.
So there's some different scenarios where plot armor comes into play that I just think are funny.
Okay.
So in villain and superhero type stories, where you're going to watch them mow down hundreds of people, I swear, like innocent bystanders are just dropping like flies. And, the superhero is just killing off all these people to get to the villain. And then all of a sudden he has a moral conundrum about killing the villain. I mean, he obviously has the power to, but he chooses not to, because that's the moral choice. I'm like, what about the 37 dudes and their families that you just gleefully extinguished?
That's not the story.
I know that's not the story, but it's just this weird moral conundrum where it's just like,
of ants.
Now you care? When you get to the bad guy. And it's the same thing. The villain proves that he can definitely off the superhero. But, they get to that ending moment and he doesn't for some reason. Mm-hmm. And that's plot armor, like at its finest, because Superman has got to survive for another season. You can't kill Superman.
No. But he also has he has kryptonite. That's the only thing that the villains can use against him to weaken his power. Is that also like plot armor?
Well, that's like, at least it's explained and it's a long-term thing. Like, it's built into his character that, yeah, he's got special protections in place, but usually in each of the movies, they have some way to get around those protections. And when you get to the big climax, you know, the villain's preparing to strip the superhero of their powers. There's a lot of words that are the same in this. Superheroes are trying desperately to bring down the villain because they're saving the world. And then you have this thing come up where they just decide not to kill each other because they want them to suffer in jail or something. Mm-hmm. Which, yeah.
On the same note, but not exactly the same note, I think that some characters have a plot armor that is misleading. How about that?
Sure.
Where I thought that for sure Dumbledore was not dead. Man, we're spoiling everything.
That this is a dangerous episode.
Dumbledore was not dead. So I read the books first before the movies came out, and I thought so I read 6, and then it was like 3 years before we got 7. And in 6, Dumbledore dies. And in the 3 years that we waited, I had an entire essay written about how Dumbledore was like an animagus who was a phoenix and was absolutely going to rise up from whatever. And I know that, like, Rowling said that none of her characters are going to come back to life, but I didn't believe any one of them.
No, she's a writer. She's a professional liar.
I thought for sure that Dumbledore was going back to life.
Well, and any time a character dies through a way that's not like, oh yeah, they're gone. Like walking through the forbidden door into nothingness. This shows up more often than it should. Where you're like, okay, it's a door.
Right.
They're going to come back out again.
But there's there was, I guess, so much protection put around the characters that I was absolutely duped into thinking that they were safe.
Yeah. Well, and characters that, like, they feel like they should be safe, and then they have a death that doesn't feel dead enough, then you're like, I don't know if I should keep this little fire of hope burning for them, because I'm not being given much, but at the same time, it didn't feel like that door was all the way closed.
Yes.
Like, it feels like there's a way to come back.
I still feel that way. I still feel that Dumbledore is alive somewhere. I still like my essay.
It's a good idea.
It was brilliant.
It's a nice little headcanon there.
Oh, I should post
Well,
that
and there's
somewhere.
another one where, like, the main character does keep getting hurt, but they get hurt in these really serious ways, and the whole story turns into this main character just getting beaten and beaten and beaten, and you're just like, stop beating them up. Like, and that's a different kind of plot armor where they're getting beaten or injured or shot or whatever, and they just don't die. And it feels like it turns into this weird, like, torture almost, where, yeah, they're going to keep getting hurt. And then they don't die. And then part of me is just like, okay, something's got to give.
Mm-hmm. So tell me why. Why is it not a good thing to have plot armor?
It makes a joke of the main character.
Okay.
Like, so if you imagine
easy.
a character that's like, their first scene, they get hit by a bus and then they fall down the stairs, and like all of a sudden it turns into slapstick if it's that flavor of plot armor.
Gotcha.
Or if they just magically keep surviving, it's just like, oh, look, they're not surviving because they're smart. They're surviving because they're lucky. And that's like, it's not a good look.
I do see what you're talking about, where it's expected or derivative, where it's not surprising. It's to the audience at all. We aren't feeling anything from that plot device, right? From that protection.
Like, the character needs to be putting in some effort. And when they're not putting in effort, then why is the audience going to be like, ooh, I'm cheering for them? Like, they didn't do anything. Right. Like, the more they do and the harder they push, that's what makes them, like, something to cheer for.
Yeah.
Like, someone with real grit.
Right.
Like, that's like, oh my gosh, give me a character with true grit and pushing and working hard and a skill set and making it work. Don't make it easy for them. I also think if it becomes too easy, sometimes it creates a concept hole in the plot. You know, it's like the magic that shows up right at the last minute. why didn't they have that earlier?
Yeah.
Why is that something that they just got right now when they needed it? And I mean, sometimes you do have, like, there is a story structure where your main character has to attain the magical item before facing the main climax. But they know about the item the entire book. It's just when the item shows up and they're like, oh, it's that thing. We're saved. And they didn't really mention it the rest of the book. It's just like,
I think
that's cheap.
You know, you're talking about that just reminds me, we were talking about Harry Potter, but I felt that it was too easy for Dobby to appear and save the day in the Malfoy house.
Yeah.
In the 7th book. I know he sacrificed his life for that. Spoiler.
Again.
But
we will be putting a disclaimer at the beginning.
I wished that there had been a little bit more, I don't know, adventure than just having Dobby appear
and a click
and
of his
take
fingers.
Them. Right.
And it's better.
When it's a dungeon that no one can apparate out of, but yet Dobby can. That was, I don't know. I still have...
It did cheapen it. But we did know that Dobby could do that well in advance of that scene. It wasn't a new power he had never had before. At least we kind of knew that was
something
in the cards.
That she had to write in way before for us to understand when she was going to go save the day here. I'm talking about the author. The adventure side of me wanted a little bit more, I don't know.
It should have been more involved.
It should have been harder. I mean, I like that they distorted Harry's face. I like that, they had a big knife fight, I guess. I don't know. I'm trying to remember the book. But it was, there you go. That's all. I wished that there was just a little bit more, just a little bit something, so it didn't feel so out of nowhere and save the day. That's all.
Oh, for sure.
Okay,
so how should we protect characters without relying on, and we should never be relying on plot armor, but what are smarter ways of handling these critical situations or these really dangerous situations that we put characters into?
Yeah, that's true. I think it's tricky because, I mean, you need to create tension, but you have to balance it with, what's unexpected. So the reader isn't guessing, or that you give the reader a chance to catch up, or it's tricky. That's all I can say. I don't know.
And I'll go back to like main character skills. Like they should be using either their smarts or like items they already have or things they've already learned.
Or a good team. You mentioned
or a good
that
team to be able to get out of the situation. Because if it's just happening and it feels too easy, like, Dobby, then you do feel like you've cheated a little bit.
But she did, if you do plan on something like that, you need to put it in your novel before.
Absolutely.
So, as I said with Ready Player 2, nothing was put into place when they went to save the day. Everything just happened. And so there was no way for us, the audience, to even attempt the guess. And that was unsatisfying.
Yeah, it's really unsatisfying.
You have to prepare, I guess.
Readers want to be able to feel like they're one step ahead, because by the time you get to the big thing, they should have some idea how it's going to go and either be really on board with it or really worried. Mm-hmm. And if they don't have anything, then it's just like, I don't know if I care. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if this is going to make even any sense as we go into it.
And I think just something that I thought of, I think that there should be an unsafe space for characters as well. Even though I don't like the fact that like Katniss's sister Prim died. I don't like that at all. But I wasn't expecting it either. So for that I liked. For that part that I felt, more engaged because I wasn't expecting that to happen.
But it wasn't out of the blue. The situation wasn't out of the blue. They'd been in danger for so long, and other people who were Prim's equivalents were dying. Mm-hmm. And so having it happen wasn't something that was just like, what?
No, but that's and it was a little bit, it caved in my heart a little bit because I really wanted to. That was the whole point of Katniss wanted to save her sister.
Yeah, everything
right?
about the everything.
Yeah.
In that
so
story.
going back to that main point, I feel that there should be unsafe. You should also create unsafe places for characters as well.
Yeah.
But don't just keep killing everybody and then we all get like weary of all these people dying.
There's definitely a balance. And like we keep on talking about, it's just deadly situations, but this could be psychologically deadly situations too.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Like this does work for both things because there's the like the death of your character. That sounds not right. The death of the character's feelings about something.
Okay.
Like their love for somebody. That like if you're writing a romance story and your odds are getting the girl or not getting the girl and the things at stake, like you can play with these same ideas. Because if it's just a given that the guy's going to get the girl and nothing is going to really challenge him and he just soars through all the different little things that are strewed in his path, then it feels cheap again.
Yep.
And so I think you can take this idea and adapt it for what your character's big danger is. What's the worst thing they could lose? And so I think there's all sorts of different ways to be able to just really squeeze those situations for all they're worth and make it have a really good emotional payout where the character grows and survives and learns something about themselves or the world or their team or whatever. And just make it amazing instead of, making it cheap. Like, oh, yeah, we made it. Ta-da! Let's go get ice cream.
Cool. All right. So I really don't have any final thoughts, but do you? What do you have?
So I think that kind of wrapped it up. I think when you do things really well, if you're doing these peril and danger situations, whether it's emotionally or physically, you can push these characters to reveal their true nature. They can grow into the person they're supposed to be, and they can show their grit. And everybody loves grit.
Yep, I do.
It is a universal love.
Yeah,
a character with grit. So don't cheat. Don't make it easy for your main character because your reader's going to call you on it. And they're going to be really annoyed if you made it too easy or if it feels like you're cheating.
It just needs to be tricky. That's all. I don't like the character. I don't think the character should ever be safe. And as the creator, we tend to get attached to our characters and we don't want to hurt them. We want to protect them. But if you know what's best for the story, you might need to think outside of what is expected in order to save them. What's up?
There you go. Okay. I like it.
All right.
We now have a listener assignment because we promised we'd start doing this, and I got a good one.
Okay.
So the next time you're watching an action film that has lots of danger in it, see if you can spot instances of cheap plot armor. I want the rickety plastic stuff. Like, see if there's moments where they've done it in a way where you're just like, that's stupid. Because in action films especially, and ones meant for families or younger audiences, they're all over the place. And it's fun.
I'll have to look.
It is fun to pick them out. Slapstick all over the place. And this is to help you learn what, a cheap trick versus something that might be a little bit better. Now, is it fun to have a cheap trick here and there? Yeah, but please don't make that your normal. Please don't.
Good. Yay. Good job, Jody.
Yay. I thought this was fun.
I'm going to wear my plot armor so that I'm protected.
Against the next episode.
So I'm derivative. You expect what's going to come out of my mouth.
All right. Tell us about the next episode.
Well, I thought it'd be really fun to talk about the previous lives of writers, how authors that we know and love have in their previous lives been doing something else. And I thought it would just be fun to talk about that and how it incorporated into their writing. So
very cool. All right, a huge thanks for listening today. Remember, we have a Patreon and a Buy Us a Coffee. If we said anything that's going to help you in any way, shape, or form, or at least if we made you laugh, we would love any form of contribution. If you haven't done so already, please like and subscribe. This has been Squirrel. I'm Jody.
And I'm Candace.
And until next week.
Thank you for listening to the Squirrel Podcast for the Distracted Writer with Candace J. Thomas and Jody L. Milner. Please like and subscribe to our podcast for updates and new episodes, and find more information at our website, squirrelpodcast.com. Stay distracted, everyone.
It'll be a surprise when we get there.
Oh, that's my favorite. I love surprises. Said me.
Said not
Said
you.
no one ever. No. Some people do like surprises. I'm just not one of them.